Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Reel Chums. We're chatting about movies, feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Danny.
This week, we kick off our month-long series of superhero movies not based on comic books with the 2000 film Unbreakable, directed and written by M. Night Shyamalan, starring Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, Robin Wright, and more.
Before we jump in, though, we just want to remind you to please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Turn on those notifications. That way you never miss an episode.
Join in on the conversation by following us on social at Reel Chums. And if at the end of the episode you enjoyed it, we'd love it if you left a review or share it with one friend because it really helps us get discovered. I'm going to say that one more time. If you like this, if you like our podcast, if you think it's great, please just share it. Like, leave a review, share it with people because we want to grow the audience because we want to have conversations with you, with other people who just want to talk about movies. And we just don't have enough of it and we want more.
So please like, share, tell others, and let's roll that intro. Danny, I have a question for you.
Wonderful. Let's go.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Two things. I'm going to answer the one that I've always said for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was teleportation. I think teleportation would be a really awesome skill or superpower.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's a really interesting one. I think there's a lot you can do with it. Cool stuff. But there's a show on Hulu called Extraordinary where like everybody has like a superpower, but they're like really weird superpowers.
Extraordinary? Is
Dude,
this what it's
it
called?
is phenomenal, bro. So like when they turn 19, they get a power. And each person can be so like one woman's power ends up she's like one day I was looking in the mirror as like a 20-year-old woman with a husband. The next day I wake up as a 7-year-old girl. So she's like 45 years old and she can't get alcohol because she looks like a child. And then there's like another girl who like will get possessed. She like by different character, like from people who are dead.
Okay.
And then, but there was one that was really good, and now I just completely spaced what it was.
Oh, it's on its second season.
Yeah,
Oh, I've never heard of this.
Sadie watched it, and we started watching it again, and it's freaking hilarious. Perfect example. Okay, not a perfect example, but the mom can control technology, but she doesn't know how to use technology. So like she's like trying to change the television and it doesn't like it changes, but it never to what she wants. And then she tries to like use a phone, but she doesn't know how to use the phone. She's like, Mom, no, stop it. Anyways,
Okay, I'll watch it.
pretty great. So it's made me think about, man, it would be really funny to have like when someone asked me this question, I was like, next time someone asks me this question, I'm going to use this one. And I can't believe I completely forgot what it was. Amateur hour over here. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, man. First off.
Do you want to hear what mine is?
No. Just kidding.
I wasn't even going to share. I don't know what to tell you.
Give it to me.
Similar to you, growing up, I always wanted like Magneto's powers, like control metal. Because you can do so much with that.
You can do a freaking ton with that.
So much. I think as I've gotten older, I've narrowed it down to two.
Okay.
I want to be able to, like Taskmaster from Marvel, who like can pick up any skill set.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
But I want Taskmaster like mimics powers or like abilities of other like superheroes.
Yeah.
I want to just be able to like study karate for like 3 hours and become a black belt.
Yeah.
Right? So like I want
like
to
downloading the Matrix or what
but like I have to like work at it for a little bit.
Yeah.
And like how and like master the skill set. Or like piano, whatever it is, right? Like take a couple hours where I'm on it and then I master it. So that would be one. And the other one, which I think is the one that I lean to, is have the ability to like convince or influence people on anything.
Oh, that's
and not necessarily like a Jedi mind trick.
Yeah.
But like talk to someone as to why they shouldn't vote for Trump and then convince them.
Nice.
Let's leave politics out of this or whatever it is, right? Like be able to like convince someone on something, on anything and just like go for it.
People should only eat tacos for lunch.
Yeah. Or like I'm out shopping, you really want to leave this cart at a much lower interest rate and half the price. And here's why. Yeah, you're right. Let's do it.
Okay. Go for it. That's awesome.
Those would be my superpowers.
All right.
Let us know. Let us know in the comments below. What power would you want to have?
Or answer the question on Spotify.
Okay, let's talk Unbreakable. So we decided to do a month long of superhero movies that are not based on comic books. We have some great stuff coming up throughout the month, but we kicked off with Unbreakable. You've never seen this.
Never seen it.
This is your first time.
Correct.
I have seen this a plethora amount of times because I love this movie. So I want to talk a little bit about like why I love it.
Okay.
So this 2000.
Yes.
So this is like a year after Sixth Sense came out. This is his second movie, or not his second movie. I think he'd done something else before Sixth Sense, and then this. Huge success with Sixth Sense, and then you go into Unbreakable, and I feel like M. Night had kind of like positioned himself as like this thriller horror with a twist ending, and he almost had to like follow up that expectation, but he decided to go with like Unbreakable, a non-traditional superhero movie.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Right? And I remember seeing like the trailer for this and just like, oh, it looks cool. And then when I finally watched it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is like straight up superheroes. And I just love this movie because it was a different take on like the genre. This was the same year that X-Men came out. Bryan Singer's X-Men came out.
This is the same year that X-Men came out? The OG one?
Yep. So picture that.
Like, I actually don't. I truly don't ever. I don't even ever remember hearing about this movie.
About this movie? Unbreakable? No. Really?
It wasn't it like I think I said this at the end of the podcast last episode.
Until the new ones.
And it was like someone's like, hey, there was this really great movie with Bruce Willis. That was like that kind of like hinted at there might be another one, and we haven't seen anything. And then like 2 weeks later, Split was announced, like with a trailer. And my friend was like, dude, this is the movie that this is the follow up to that movie I was telling you about, which was like 10 years later, right? It was like sorry, 20 years,
almost 20.
Yeah, almost 20 years later.
Yeah, it's like 18. Yeah, but I love this movie, and I think this is the time before Batman Begins had come out. And I think Batman Begins, often we use the word that it's grounded, right? It's such a grounded take on Batman. Whereas I feel like people approach this as a realistic take on superheroes. So I loved it. We had this on DVD. I would watch all the deleted scenes. I absolutely love the music by James Newton Howard. I think this was my first introduction to James Newton Howard, and I fell in love with him. And so I genuinely love this movie.
This movie blew me away, bro.
Yes, I'm so glad.
I have not said anything to Marcel. He's like, bro, I'm gonna start. This is the day before Easter, and he's like, bro, I'm gonna start Unbreakable. You want to come over and watch it?
I invited you to come over and watch it because I wanted to.
I wanted to go with it. I wanted to go with you so bad, but I had so much stuff to do. I was such a busy weekend. Blown away, bro.
I'm so glad.
I'm blown. I have so many thoughts. I have so many things I want to talk about this movie. Where do you want to start?
Let's give me a quick synopsis on the movie.
So a security guard who has a traumatic event in being the only sole survivor of a terrible train accident finds himself in a heroic journey discovery about his true purpose in life.
You want to hear mine?
Yeah, give it to me.
I sat down and really wrote this.
You did? Yeah, okay, give it to me.
This is a story about a hero who can't break and a villain, spoiler alerts, who destroys things around himself to discover his evil counterpart. But it's a film that's built around a broken family, a broken man trying to put his life and that of his wife and sons back together.
Yeah. Really great. Good ending. Yeah. Good ending. I was trying to think about how to incorporate, because I said I finished and I'm like, I feel like I really need to talk about the family because that's really what it comes down to.
couple months ago we talked about Signs, right? How it's a movie about grief, about a family that's going through grief, with the backdrop of an alien invasion.
Yes,
and I think and M. Night did this first with this movie. It's a movie about a man who has kind of lost his purpose, right? And maybe not his purpose, but isn't finding fulfillment.
There is something is missing in his life.
Yeah,
that has caused a rift in his own family, like with his relationship with his wife.
Yes,
and even and his son.
Yeah,
and his son.
And for him to find that meaning, find that validation or that purpose, but you have the backstory or a backdrop of like superheroes that helps push this story of this man finding that his journey, right?
Right.
It's I hadn't seen this in like several years. It is so good.
Dude, it is phenomenal, bro. I was blown. Look, you challenged me to watch this as if I didn't know this was a trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I tried. I did watch it twice.
Good.
And I bought it and I watched the special features as well. They're great. I mean, M. Night Shyamalan is probably our age. Or even younger. At this
point, I think he might have been younger.
I think he might have been 26 or 27. Like,
what am I doing with life?
You're doing a lot with life, bro. We're doing great. Okay, no comparing. But I was something that he said in one of the special features. He said, "I wrote this like a traditional movie, and it doesn't resonate with me." And so I wrote it just about this whole movie is a first act, right? And if I had like obviously I watched that there and I know some but I tried to think about what would this movie be like.
Yeah,
and it would be. I would not want to stop thinking. I would like what happens next, I think that, the fact that he is a father and a husband who. Or a husband and a father that was struggling with a potential divorce, moving away from his kid and trying to find something different. Kind of it feels like an important thing to have in a movie at this time period.
Yeah, yeah.
I have commentary on it in this movie. I absolutely love the cinematography. I have not watched a movie. I literally just watched Dune 2 like a week and a half ago.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that movie inspired me. This movie destroys Dune 2 when it comes to cinematography and story, the prowess. So much so that I had recently watched The Batman, and a lot of the things that we see in Unbreakable, I find I realized that I saw in The Batman from Matt Reeves.
Okay, yeah.
This idea, yeah. Anyways, we'll get into it. That's kind of what I want to stop.
Let's go into that. Let's talk about some of the cinematic techniques and themes. But real quick, the cinematographer was Eduardo Serra, who did Blood Diamond. He did the last two Harry Potter movies. I think those are kind of his bigger ones, but What Dreams May Come. Have you ever seen that one?
Mm-mm.
It's powerful. Anyway, but what really stood out to me also, Dylan Titchener, he's the editor on this.
Yeah.
And nominated for Zero Dark 30, There Will Be Blood,
yep,
Brokeback Mountain. And I think it's at least these three movies are very focused on character development.
Yeah.
And there's something that I really loved about this movie this last time. The long shots, just staying on a character. And even if it's just quiet, even if it's just waiting for a reaction, the willpower to say, let's not cut. Let's just keep it going. Let's keep it rolling. And then in the edit room to say, okay, we're 3 seconds of just silence. No, but to keep going and allowing us to feel again. and to just stay with the moment. It really stood out to me. And again, because as a traditional superhero movie, there's always so much movement, so many cuts, so much action, whereas this movie just kind of stays not mellow, but stays consistent in its entire pacing. And a lot of that, I think, shout out to the editor, again, to Dylan for that. Yeah,
what was the director's name again? So he's like, I think Portuguese or Brazilian or something like that.
The cinematographer,
yeah,
Eduardo Serra.
So Eduardo Serra,
from Portugal, yes.
So this is what watching this movie, I'm just reminded. You said it perfectly. You like that they locked off shots.
Yes.
And I think in a world where we have technology that we can get, like, I like doing handheld shooting because I have IBIS, which is in-body image stabilization on a camera, which means the sensor can move. Mm-hmm. When I'm moving, so that way the image is stable no matter what. The Sony Burano, which is a new camera that got released a week ago, has this feature. It's the first cinema camera to have this feature that outside of a outside of a mirrorless body. So the mirrorless bodies prior to IBIS were basically like they loved that it was accessible. Like the 5D Mark II Mark II was like the first like consumer level camera that we could get like video features that with photography lenses that could mimic something you would see on screen. It's slightly even bit more because you could get shallower depth of field. Anyways, which kickstarted a huge revolution of like creating, like being able to like shoot budget films and like all sorts of things. That technology has progressed, and at one point, Panasonic introduced in-body image stabilization where they could like, balance it, and more cameras have adopted that. Having this technology means that like you could put it on your shoulder or handhold it and not have like super shaky footage because you have a smaller sensor with like a tighter lens. Right. So, whereas like before you'd have like a big old camera that's weighted. Yeah. So gravity would kind of bring it down. So if you handhold it, you would get more of an organic feel, or being able to lock it off. I could have a camera and hit a button and it would look like it's on a tripod. Right?
Yeah.
But one thing that I learned in college was the fact that like put it on sticks and get your hands off. Because there's this thing called fire hosing where you put your camera on and you want to go wherever you want to go and do all sorts of things. And obviously you get to a level where you know what you want and you can follow through, or you have like a game plan, right? Mm-hmm. You think of an Extraction. They have these amazing one takes, or, these amazing sequences that you're going to cut to and you're going from there. The fact that Knight was like, I storyboarded it and I want it to be pretty close to what this was. And they had a discussion between the editor and the cinematographer and the director to have a decision of like, this is why I wanted to do this. This is what's the feeling. That every movement is motivated for a reason.
Yes.
If it's and we are not cutting to reactions like we would, because the perfect example, the opening sequence.
Oh, so good.
Phenomenal. Okay. We don't cut. We don't. It's a
2.5, almost 2.5 minute, just constant take, right?
But we're shifting views.
Yes.
We have a framing of these chairs, and we see Bruce Willis on the window, and this, they have this like, you're like a voyeur watching this interaction happen, and then we cut to these kids, and it's like these kids watching this thing happen, and there's something super organic at the same time as also us feeling like we're being told a story as a super external perspective. We're not, whereas in most movies, we are an observer in their world as if we can, to get the perspectives, views. We're not that case. There are shots that we don't even cut to Bruce Willis's reactions. We hold on long shots that are wide. They hold a shot on characters that you would want to see something else on. There are all sorts of things that happen in this film that we don't see hardly at all anymore. And when we do, people are like, this is amazing stuff. And really what it comes down to is like, it's just a different style because things have evolved because of, you think of Oppenheimer. literally, like we talked about, like what 5 seconds?
Yeah,
and
no shot lasts longer than like 8 seconds. Yeah,
right. Grant, like that's a freaking long movie. But there's a lot of stuff happening, and it is what it is. But I just think there's something to be said about, crafting your story to have meaning with every part of what you're doing with the film. And I think this movie is a perfect example of what a director with a vision, a cinematographer who understands that vision, and an editor who wants to communicate that collective thing in a way that feels not only coherent, but like that can allow us to experience that vision.
Yes, and it's very conscious filmmaking.
Yeah, that's a perfect word. That's a perfect phrase for it. Yeah,
like it's very conscious. You mentioned that opening scene, right, with in the train, just the camera just going back between Bruce, between David and Kelly, the lady's name, right? I also think of something that really stood out to me. What's the wife's name? Adrian? No.
Yeah,
Audrey. The first like 2-3 interactions that we see between Audrey and David outside after they leave the hospital, they only talk to each other at doorways.
Very, very, yeah.
The first time he's going up the stairs, she's in her room. He's just outside the door. He's going up. Hey, I don't know if I'll get the job, but I'm probably still going to go to New York, right? Then another scene where she comes and knocks on the door, and she's asking like, "Have you been with anyone else?" Right? That scene.
Oh, bro.
She asks him. She's at the doorway. He's in the room. She's outside or in the closet. I think he was in the closet. But it's just these interactions that are taking place in a door, perfectly framed. And I said this also in Science. I feel like for me, M. Night Shyamalan and Wes Anderson are the best at like getting their team to like really frame their shots. No one, in my opinion, does it better than these two, Wes Anderson and M. Night. And I just love having those doorway scenes. But going to that one in the closet, they are talking, and she's having this emotional, this breakdown of her feelings, of her insecurities, of her doubts. But we never see David's reaction.
Bro,
this is what I mean by like very conscious filmmaking.
Okay, I didn't do a full count, but I, as an editor, was like thinking, I'm like, when are they going to cut to the face?
Mm-hmm.
When are they going to cut to the face? They didn't cut to the face.
Yeah.
The opening scene, that scene is the perfect example. Okay. They set up this scene. It is a movie about, what's his name? David Dunn. It's a movie about David Dunn and his origin story.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the full breakdown is, but I would say like less than a little over half of the movie is actually on him. Or like a majority of it is only wide, and only very selective things are in close-ups.
Yeah.
For this hero character. Right? In moments you think you would have huge moments of this character are fully on other individuals in his life.
Yep.
And I think there's so much to unpack in this that I can see why this is such I know why this is why people love this movie. I fully am, tied to the fact that like this is a film that I will want to revisit. I will want to almost want to do let's set up this scene. How did they do this scene? Because it truly was to me, it was so inspiring seeing the fact that like, if I write a story if I can focus on a meaningful story of, even if it's small, and I truly think through the shots and work with a team, and or whether it be a team or by myself or whatever, that you can tell really phenomenal stories with simple shots and that are deliberate.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that like it doesn't. You don't like. We don't have to go back and forth if like because like they could have had other coverage. I mean, there's I think another great scene is when they're together on their date.
Oh yes, I was gonna bring this one up. Go. Please.
No, you tell me.
The framing. I love everything from the framing of the shot, the set design as well.
Yeah.
You and I love how everyone is, again, going back to the framing. Everyone is positioned perfectly, and you have the camera right in the center, and you just see the two of them, right? In the distance. We linger from a distance, but I love the decision that as they start talking about their own challenges, they're having a fun, casual conversation, but as they begin to talk about, when did you think that we wouldn't, work out? And we start getting closer and closer to them during that. And it isn't, I love the decision to not like cut and just go to them.
And do a two shot.
Yes.
Or like across over the shoulder shots, right?
Where she's asking the question and we see her and then we go to his reaction. I'm glad that was not done. And I love the decision to just stay away as they're having this casual conversation, but as they become intimate in an intimate conversation about their challenges, to then start closing in.
And they don't even get very close. It's still like a mid shot. Like it goes from like a wide shot to like a mid shot. So we don't even go to an intimate feeling, but it feels so intimate. So my question that I had for you is that with using it in a plethora of times, thinking through this and wanting to talk about this movie for who knows how long, why do you think M. Night decided to go with this style of shooting for a hero film only his mind had? What is it? Why tell this story in such subverting the expectation of what a hero story could be?
I think a couple of reasons. Again, 2000. So this is post the shenanigans of the Batman movies, right? Like,
yes,
this is a year and a half after all of that, after George Clooney is Batman. We talked about X-Men, right? So we're coming into an era of superhero movies. You have X-Men come out the same year.
The primer.
Yeah.
This is the primer for what we then receive as the MCU.
Exactly. And this is just 4 or 5 years away from the Dark Knight or Batman Begins and what that encapsulates. So, and again, you have at this point, there is no Marvel Studios. You have Fox, who owns X-Men and other stuff. Sony, who owns Spider-Man. So everything's just kind of, we're at the precipice of like being thrown into what you said is the MCU and the superhero decade.
Well, but
right?
but even like I think I really want to reiterate this. This is the primer of everything. We had, like you said, we had the X-Men trilogy, we had the Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire trilogy, and we had like, what was Losers, like them testing the waters with more graphic novels turning into movies in this time frame.
And so, but I think it all goes back to M. Night's ability to tell a story about human relations, human emotions, and he just happens to bring the superhero trope, not even tropes, but like a superhero element to this story. We saw that so well with Signs, right? We see it yet again here, where he really just wants to tell a story about a husband, a father, who's broken, and he can't find his meaning, his his self-worth, and the repercussions that has had. I think a movie like this in today's landscape would not resonate.
It would have bombed.
Okay, and I think a movie even 2 years or 3 years after would not have resonated either. It's just it's in the perfect time to tell a great human story by adding elements of superhero elements to it.
Yeah,
and that's what I want. I think this movie just made me also remind myself of, like, I think I mentioned this in our science episode. Like, I am an M. Night, like, apologist. Like, I think he's great. Yeah, he's had some wacky movies, but, like, I will always defend this man. And I think this is just a testament of, like, he's an incredible filmmaker, an incredible storyteller, and with the right approach to a human story, he can tell powerful, emotional journeys through his stories.
I remember you saying, like, I'm an M. Night apologist. And I think I'm getting to want to be there. Because I mean, when with Avatar,
Avatar, After Earth, right?
Right. Here's something though. Bruce Willis in some of the deleted scenes, he says that, like, I think it was Bruce, or maybe it was I can't remember. Somebody says that M. Night knows what he wants, or something about, like, the way he sees the characters, which is a blessing and a curse for what he does. And so I think this movie, like, is helping me better understand him as a filmmaker. So not only, like, we talked a little bit about the scenes with his family, like, he's got similar situations with his son that have there, but I think when he's every time he's experiencing regular life, we don't see Bruce Willis's, like, we don't see him like detail shots. It's often his environment. We're cutting to his hand, him experiencing other people around him, right? Yet when we see him with Elijah Price, they are almost on the same. It's completely the opposite. It's very neutral style shots or evenly framed shots. That they're, this idea of being equal in some kind of way, or like mirroring each other.
Yeah.
Right. And again, just reemphasizing the cinematography helps to subconsciously help move emotional and the subtext of different scenes in the movie forward. And I truly love it.
Even, and I want to talk about, like, that final scene when he follows the employee back to the house where he's kidnapped this family.
Yeah.
That fight scene is just so powerful because you have the score from James Newman Howard coming in, this iconic heroes theme that you would hear, like, in a Danny Elfman for Spider-Man or whatever it is, right? It's so iconic, and even, like, the fighting, that it's not like a handheld choreographed, like, fight where we're weaving back and forth between the actions.
Sticks.
It's on sticks, mounted.
Yeah, it's mounted high. It's a high shot, looking down, wide angle shot.
Yes.
It's probably 24 mil, and it just holds.
It just holds, and I just love that idea of we're just gonna stay here. Okay, let them have this moment where they're fighting, where the guy's pushing. We know that David can't break, right? We know that he's gonna be fine, that he's gonna take out this guy, but the decision to just leave the camera mounted on there and allow this fight to happen, that decision by itself creates the tension that I want. And I this last time I was thinking, just like, why had M. Night decided to do a full choreographed fight sequence with the camera moving, weaving back and forth with massive cuts or whatever? how would this have played out? And it just would have, it would have felt out of tone.
Yeah.
It would have felt very out of character.
Correct.
Yeah, you could have argued like maybe like this is like the climatic moment where he owns his superpowers or his journey, his identity, and you could have played around it, but leave it in a way that's just focusing on them. Get a full view and just allow them to have this fight sequence that empowers David. I just love that. It really stood out to me this time to have had it done that way. And maybe just because like the landscape of superhero movies now where everything is just very what's the word I'm looking for? Very action packed.
Yeah, action. Yeah. That's a good way.
It's beautiful.
Here's where I feel like, because I was blown away when that was the end, the culmination of this thing. But I think what it comes down to is that this is a story about a broken man trying to fix himself.
Yep.
And in that journey, he finds he's unbreakable.
Yeah.
And that he can have a bigger impact. But he didn't know he had these abilities, this gift. And I think that the cinematography helps to emphasize this concept, right? Just so I love this. Can we talk a little bit about what is your feeling on the stylized things that are in it, like the coloring, as well as like the overall like set and costume design overall throughout this film? Like where do you feel?
Yeah, I think something that I really enjoyed was it's a very subdued like color palette for the movie. We don't have and again, this is like early, obviously 2000. So like we as a society and as Hollywood we hadn't embraced like the full costumes and what we see Deadpool wearing nowadays, right? We hadn't embraced that yet. But I really enjoyed this like subdued color palette. But even more so in the trains, like the train station scene, where we decide the conscious decision that the people that he touches that have done some kind of crime are wearing bright colors, right? He first bumps into the woman in red. We see that she shoplifts. We bump into the one college kid with the crazy color who was at a party and took advantage of a woman, right? And then we bump into the final guy that he follows home. One's wearing red, the other one's wearing bright green, and then the final guy's wearing this bright orange jumpsuit. I love just that direction. And something, you and I, we talk often about how like we enjoy when our filmmakers don't have to handhold us through shots or through story beats. I enjoyed kind of like being, and I wouldn't say that we were being handheld, but like I love the decision that the movie, because of its muted color palette, decides to then in this very climatic moment where he embraces his ability to like get this foresight into people's behavior, pops color.
You're not wrong. In fact, when I watched the first time, I was immediately drawn to how different scenes and different different scenes where color was placed. And it wasn't just like with what you said, which is the crimes that individuals do, so that popped for him. But it's also in like in comic books, they have like contextual things that to help to help us understand what's happening in the story and in the world, blah blah blah. I think that that's what, to a level, they're using this color in a form, because we don't have internal dialogue like
right.
We've seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We don't have some of these other things like it's not a Batman where it's not like Christopher Nolan's Batman where it's trying to be realistic, but also it's a superhero, like a DC film, and them giving exposition or whatever to be able to like, or like a montage of any kind.
Yeah.
we're brought into him in moments of life, mundanity, but these pops of color allow us to draw our eye.
Yeah.
Allow us to understand as the characters learn things, we are learning them.
We are learning them. Yeah.
And I don't know, just it is this movie isn't. It's not. I mean, I wouldn't even say like you said, like I don't think it's necessarily they're holding your hand. I think it's just it was a subtle thing that they could do to help emphasize a thing. Whereas, and even on that point, like there are so many other. I'm sure there's probably so many other subtle little things that I don't like. I haven't caught, and maybe you haven't caught yet. On like that they did. If you're really analyzing frame by frame, what are the things that we're catching that like are changing to help move subconscious or not subconsciously, but like moving that growth in characters and in the story.
Again, it's beautiful. Like it's a beautiful movie. I want to talk about the characters themselves.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have our main characters with David Dunn, Elijah Price, and Audrey, played by what's her name?
Robin Wright.
Robin Wright.
I love Robin Wright.
She's great in this movie, and I want to just start this topic with. I think this is my favorite. I will argue this is Bruce Willis' best performance.
Ooh,
I love him obviously in the Die Hards.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's a different type of acting.
Yeah.
This is my favorite Bruce Willis performance. Go through his IMDb.
I'm like trying to think if I have something else that I mean, you. Oh man, yeah.
I think this is his best performance. Like, just the emotion that he brings to this character of David, and I love this decision of the movie that I kind of caught this time. The movie starts off with Elijah being born, right? And we learn about his condition. His bones were broken in the uterus. He comes out, and immediately we feel and we empathize with this character.
Yeah.
The movie then cuts to that train scene where we meet David, and we meet him as someone who's taking off his ring.
We meet him as depressed.
Yes.
Or sad or lonely
sad,
or something.
lonely, whatever it is, right? He's coming back from his interview, as we later learn. But he takes off his ring, hides it, hits on Kelly, on this lady, who suggests, "Hey, I think you will like this magazine." I don't know what it was, Vogue magazine.
Yeah. Hand me the other one. It's Sports. It's like Sports Illustrated.
Sports Illustrated, right? Like, I love the decision to introduce our characters that are as we will know, our villain. We empathize with him, whereas the decision for our protagonist is to kind of get a horrible impression of him. And as the story goes, at least for me, I continue to empathize with Elijah. The scene where the staircase scene,
dude.
Every time I watch it, the first time I watched it, I think I was like 10 when I first watched this movie, 11, I don't know. Like that was probably like the most horrifying scene I had seen up to this age, and it just shook me to my core. And to this day, I have the memory of like watching it the first time that it continues to like just hit me. But like we empathize with him, sympathize with Elijah throughout the entire movie, and at least for me, I continue to do so all the way to the very end. At the end, when we're introduced to the mom, they're at his
comic book
showcase,
whatever it is, gallery,
yeah. Right? And she says, "Oh, I hear you guys are becoming good friends," and he's like, "Yeah, we're becoming good friends." Like. And for her to say, like, I'm so proud of him. Like, I love Elijah. And then for us to have that twist or that dramatic reveal just hits me every time. And here's my question. Like, one, did you have the same experience towards Elijah? And two, what what does the screenplay or what does the movie do so well to make us empathize or sympathize for this character, that makes that reveal so hard?
Okay, so I think that was the one thing that I wish I had been able to like experience most effectively.
Because you already knew that he was.
Well, I didn't know necessarily because I knew that he was a villain, but I didn't realize he was the arch nemesis, like the arch nemesis to Dunn. But I'm with you on the fact that I love that we sympathize. I'm like, why are we like the whole movie? Because the opening that scene, they're looking in a mirror, and then we move deliberately off mirror, so it's like we're viewing these individuals through a frame.
Yep.
And then we move at a very specific moment in that scene to the actual characters that makes it feel like something's happened with this mother that's we're unsure exactly what's going on, and then we move back to that setup that, and again, like I think you said it perfectly, that we sympathize with Glass or with Elijah, and we continue to sympathize him as we get introduced, even though there's like this that we're unsure of like
his involvement.
What's his motives?
Yeah.
Like, what is he trying to? What's he trying to accomplish? Like, even though they knew, like, I still had that moment. The reveal just wasn't as impactful. It was impactful. It just wasn't, I think, as impactful. I wish I do regret, but it was still really strong.
Yeah.
I still thoroughly enjoyed the reveal, and I think again, I think you said it perfect in the fact that his mother, we begin with him. If we had cut without that mother scene, it wouldn't have been as great. Mm-hmm. The mother scene helps to set what we think what will happen, and it then being the reveal and seeing. And that's honestly, I think this is where I think I land, is that like that is where we then get the actual comic book sort of cutting that we are accustomed to. Right, Samuel L. Jackson does a phenomenal job. Costume design on him, the Frederick Douglass style hair,
and the purple.
I mean,
I love the purple.
Samuel L. Jackson loves purple.
That's true. You're right. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that
because he's regal.
Yeah.
So, but the reveal is as he's talking, he's depicting this thing, and they have the connection with the handshake, and Bruce's him being unbreakable and mending his relationship with his family, to then be broken with his perception of a man he thought he could not rely on, but like have he has a connection to, because he knows he too is special in a way.
Yes, or a man that helped him find, right?
Yeah,
helped him find that fulfillment and put him back on his path to being a more present husband, father, etc. Right? That connection. So even though, because that scene right before, which we'll get to a second, Audrey says like, "Hey, I've been thinking we shouldn't engage with Elijah anymore, and if he calls, we should just call. If he calls us, we should report him to the police, right?" So as a family, or at least the wife, Audrey, has decided we're going to cut any kind of engagement relationship with this man. Next scene, we go, and David is there. So I think it shows that David does have an emotional attachment to Elijah, obviously, because even though he's been kind of brushing him off, in the end, Elijah kind of pushed him to find who he is, right? So for that handshake to then happen, and for him, like you mentioned, this man that can't be broken, to then emotionally break down at the very end, as the truth is revealed, is so impactful and so powerful. And I think for me, it just hits every time. And I love that dialogue, and of where he says, I'm your arch nemesis. Do you know, like, the worst feeling in the world, what does he say, is not knowing how you fit, or like...
Yeah, how to fit in the world. He, see if I can pull it up. Do you know what the scariest thing is? to not know your place in this world, to not know why you're here. That's just an awful feeling.
Yeah. And for him to say, like, we're meant to be arch nemesis, right? And for me as a kid, this scene stood out because this is before it's a very similar scene to The Dark Knight when Joker is hanging upside down. He's been caught, he's been defeated, and he says something along the lines of, like, you and I, Batman, we will forever do this, right? And, like,
finish me.
Like, that whole scene, he's hanging upside down, the bombs have been stopped, and, like, he's swinging back and forth upside down, and he says, like, we will forever be doing this, right? And we know because of the decades worth of history that we have between Batman and Joker, that history that they need each other, right? But this is before that movie, right? And, like, this is the first time, like, where arch nemesis are established, at least for me, like, cinematically, right? And it just hits so well for me. I love that interaction. I love Samuel's portrayal of Elijah, the empathy that he brings to this character, the frailness, and just the pain as well. And the ability for me to like this character. And again, this sympathetic villain. We hadn't seen this in a comic book style movie at this point.
Yeah.
Right? The MCU goes on to explore this, and Captain America Civil War does this beautifully. But we hadn't seen this in a comic book movie, right? You had the Batmans, the Superman movies, X-Men. We got, to a degree, X-Men, right? Because of Magneto's Jewish ancestry,
Correct.
right? And his experiences during the Holocaust. But, like, this movie really establishes that sympathetic villain.
Yeah.
And we see a lot more over the years, but I love this character so much.
I think that them setting this stage of a reverse, like this reverse growth. I think of Iron Man,
Mm-hmm.
and setting a specific bar for a character and having them change drastically in the overall person or drastically in their, like, who they are, whether it be drastic in physicalness, right? Like Bruce, Dunn doesn't go out and make a costume. He just has this poncho that kind of becomes this mantle for him.
Mm-hmm.
But that his growth from where we see him at the beginning of the film to the end, and the reality that is placed upon him due to Glass's, the revelation that he finds with Glass, and what that means, is what I think this movie is phenomenal. Is that it's like, this is a foundation. M. Night, like I said, I think, is that he wrote this film as a traditional 3-act film, but he said it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Because this movie is beautiful because it talks about, the themes and the messaging that we find in cinematography, in the acting, in the writing, helps to show growth and subverting expectations of, like, and more. I think one of the biggest things that when we look at comic book heroes are often some of the most broken individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And the villains are often some of the people that we end up, to a degree, can understand why they are the villains.
Right.
And this movie beautifully depicts idea.
Yeah.
This concept of good versus evil doesn't always mean that good isn't not evil, but, like,
it's not
perfect.
Yeah.
Isn't Superman. Like, when we think of Superman, Clark Kent, Golden Boy. Superman, Golden Boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yet most other superheroes are not. They're freaking muddy. They're obsessive. They're selfish or whatever. Not selfish, but an idea that provides them flaws as individuals in the world, than are their strengths as vigilantes.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question, and then we'll talk about our favorite scenes. When after he's done his heroic stunt, right? He goes back home, and he picks up Audrey. And takes her to the room. Talk to me on how that was shot. And here's what I love. One, I love the decision that, again, this conscious filmmaking, the decision to have David physically go and grab her, pick her up, carry her up a flight of stairs, lay her down, and for him to then slide in bed with her. Versus him coming home, again, amateur filmmaker here, myself, I probably just been like, oh, we gotta cut it, guys. Like, we're coming up on time. Let's just have him slide gently, wake her up and say, hey, I'm coming into bed. I had a bad dream, right? Or, very different, the decision to physically pick her up, take her, and the camera, that over the shoulder, again, not seeing Bruce Willis' face or reaction until he gets in bed. I love it. How was that shot?
So I was thinking about this because that's probably the scene that sold it for me.
Okay, yeah.
Because we just came from his heroic peak into who he's going to become.
Yeah.
He saves 2 children. He, finds 2 adults murdered and kills. Does he kill? I don't know. I'm like, or
I don't know if he kills him because I think on the newspaper it says
I can't remember what it says in the newspaper. So, anyways, this suspect is unconscious and he saves the day. To cut, like you said, to him carrying up Audrey and holding on that. And I think I'm torn because it's one of 2 things. They either did a steady cam, which is hard for me to believe because it's locked on. And we didn't have locking technology, like locking on, like in post probably was possible, but it probably not. It would have been like forever long. It would have taken forever. Mm-hmm. So my thought is that they probably did some sort of camera rig that had the Bruce or attached to Bruce in some fashion. That as he walks up, we see Audrey, and like the fact that she's just like staring at him.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful scene.
It's such a beautiful scene, bro. There's something about her personality that they have this camera rig that is locked on to Bruce in some fashion. We're holding on Audrey. She's just looking at Dunst as he walks up these stairs from being home. And like you said, like when he sets her down, that's I think when they like unlatch whatever they're gonna do. They lock it down in some other fashion, and then he comes into frame.
Yep. And
he's not even like fully in frame.
Yeah.
It's like and it's like a beautiful, like a period to a paragraph of the film. And I think what it comes down to is like, I think part of the decision of not going to Bruce is that this is his, like, he did something that I don't think he knew he could do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we come to a woman who is reminded why she loves him.
Yes.
For some reason, who recognizes that he perhaps has found himself again.
And I think it's a payoff to a line earlier during their first date where she asks him, do you resent us?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And she even says the line of like, I never wished for you to get hurt in that car accident, right? What you could do was incredible and amazing, right? But I never wished that on you. And so for us to just focus on her in that scene as she's going up the stairs, that realization of like he has found himself, he has found his meaning, his worth, his validation, and for her to just for us to just linger on her, and then as she gets laid down and as he comes into frame, but then to just top it off with, I had a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right? I had a bad dream. And it's just such a vulnerable, intimate interaction. And I say that very purposely because this man just saved 2 kids, like you mentioned. He took out a guy, right? He literally like carried her without any problem. And the decision to have that steady cam, it's not like we're going up the stairs,
no, it's
right?
locked.
It's locked on her, right? So it makes it feel like she's very like light, but because of his strength, and for him to just vulnerably say, "I had a bad dream."
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Well, and I think that's the thing. Is like, okay, I'm not an amateur filmmaker, but I am an amateur. Well, I'm not an amateur video producer, but I am an amateur filmmaker because I haven't done a film. But when I think about what I would do as a shot, right? When I think about an editor, in the sequence, he finishes the thing, cut home. I still think I would have had him pick up Audrey.
Yeah.
But I would have had him cut. He would have picked her up. We would see her wake up, and then it would cut to him carrying her from the steps.
Okay, yeah.
And then a shot as he crosses up, we cut to him walking into placing her in steps. But the scene of him walking up steps, I think we would have realized where he's at. And I think us holding on her and seeing joy, and yet we see such sorrow, adds juxtaposition. In fact, there was an article I think recently. I don't know I can't remember. I don't know if it was the Washington Post or Vox that talked about, or some other thing that I like. Some other that one of the most a powerful storytelling tool that we do not use enough today is juxtaposition. And I think that's what we have.
Yeah.
In so many moments in this film.
Yeah. Your favorite scene?
So I'm torn. I'm gonna choose the next morning with him and his son.
Oh, yes.
But the reason why is because the setup for that is his son holding a fully loaded gun at him and yelling at him saying that you are not going to get hurt.
Yeah.
But that scene depicts how broken they were. To have that impact, to then have this moment where we such simple yet meaningful, powerful shots. This is like this movie just reminds me how much sorry, I had to check the batteries. This movie reminds me on the fact that when we are gonna film something, that if all we do is we can think of the story and we can frame shots meaningfully and think in shots. Think about what is it that I want to tell in these shots to add this. Why do we cut to something else?
Yeah.
Right? Before we even get to the cutting room. And then in the cutting room, have options to say, well, what do we want to do? Because in the end scene, we have both Audrey and Dunn in the home or in the kitchen. Again, we're in the frame. His son, he's looking in on his on his mom and dad and seeing probably his parents in a light that he's not seen them
in years,
if not in ever, because he can't remember it.
Yeah.
And then coming to sit down, his mom, you want me to make you some French toast? She's going about doing it, and then having this moment that I think many of us can resonate with a dad just at the breakfast table, just chilling, doing. And I love the fact that he grabs the paper, and I don't think our kids will ever understand what that means. Like this idea of, my dad wasn't a huge paper, but we had the paper.
Yeah.
And this idea of like, that's the adult thing to do, of like, I'm going to check in on my paper. Or
lean
whatever.
Back and right, flick open the newspaper.
But then having him, a simple shot, like 30 seconds, him sits down, kind of like waking up or whatever, opening up the orange juice, then pouring the orange juice, and then cutting to this like shot of the orange juice with the paper being slid. And having a moment so of a reveal of like helping him connect and having his moment with his son.
Yeah.
Just as he had a moment with his wife.
Yeah. Yeah. And with no dialogue. And just the acting. This is Bruce Willis's best performance. I'm gonna go on record here.
I'm probably gonna agree with you. I mean, I haven't seen. I love the Die Hard. I mean, I love Live Free or Die Hard. It's probably one of my favorite movies. I don't know why. I just freaking. It's great. But I do think that this is I think I need to watch Pulp Fiction again, because both these characters are in, both Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis are in that movie, and that came several years prior. But I think there is something to be said about maybe, I don't know, just amazing stuff here. This movie truly, when I truly cannot tell you how much it's been like. Dune was like inspiring in the sense like, this is just a phenomenal, like this is a blockbuster. This movie just lit me up inside in the fact that like, what am I doing? I need to get my shit together, and I need to be I need to be shooting scenes. I need to be writing scenes. I need to be shooting scenes. I need to be editing scenes, and I need to be releasing them every month. Doing this, whether that be just you and I doing this, or me and my like myself, or whatever. Not because like I have but because I need to understand. Because like I watch these things, I'm like, I feel like I do feel like I understand what's happening, why some of these things happen.
Yeah.
But I've always been a proponent on the fact that like, it doesn't matter how often you can do a thing until you start doing it in that scenario. That you could have done this thing. One film to another film could be completely different because of the characters, the story.
Right.
What is it going to be? What are you trying to do? Instill, like what are the things you're trying to accomplish with that story? And every one of them can be different, and it doesn't matter how often you've done it. Like you're better and you understand what you're going about doing it, but it's always a journey.
It's always a journey,
and that's why people love filmmaking.
This movie, man, phenomenal. My favorite scene. I can't. I don't know. I was gonna say the carrying Audrey up the stairs. I think I'm gonna go with the opening scene. I really love the train sequence.
Oh yeah, so Bruce Willis's first scene.
Is that my favorite scene? I just have so many. Yeah, I'll go with that one for a couple of reasons. One, I just love the use of the camera there, almost making it seem like we're viewing it from the child's perspective, right? I love that that once Kelly gets up and leaves, the sound design, just how loud the train is getting, and then just everything starts shaking, and then we just like slide over to his face, one of the few close-ups that we have in this movie, and then it just cuts, right? And I think I love it just also because, again, had this movie been made today, the studio would have mandated
a watch out of the freaking train.
A watch out of the train. A sequence where we see the crash or we see the aftermath of him like coming out, helicopters flying in, and like the rubble and all of that. Like I love that the decision, whether that was in the original screenplay or during production, the decision to say we're not going to show that and we're just going to cut to black, and then to him waking up. Right? I think that sequence really sets the tone for the entire movie. The entire movie of like how he discovers his abilities. Excuse me. The fight sequence at the end in the house with the guy, right? It really just sets the tone for the entire movie, and I love that decision to not show the actual cart or the train derailing. I love it. Well, I wanted to talk about. We didn't get time to, but last thing for viewers and for us to think now that once this podcast or the episode's over, I love the use of the camera techniques with Elijah. Again, and you talked a little bit about it with when he's born in the department store, and we're looking at it through the mirror, right? Also later, the use when he's introduced as a kid, and we just see his reflection through the TV.
Yes.
Okay, and then we go outside, and he has the comic book, and
it's reversed.
The reverse. And as he's flipping the comic book, the camera also reverses with him.
Everything is slightly off with Elijah.
Yes.
Bro.
It's just conscious filmmaking.
Look, guys, we're not saying that like other filmmakers are being conscious, because they are.
No, yeah.
But there is something to be said about every aspect of this film is leveraging a sense of what filmmaking can do in a story. The cinematography is helping to depict what's in the story. The use of not editing or cutting to something else is a tool that they're leveraging to craft the story. Beautiful. We should take lessons from these moments just as much as we take lessons from going to Dune or
exactly.
anything else, because these are just all different what we do with filmmaking are just tools to tell the story. And it's just, this is a movie that will, that is like solidify itself for me as like the epitome of like why filmmaking is the S tier of art and storytelling.
I think this movie like made its way up to like my top 10. Like thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, this is probably like top 10 all time. Yeah. Probably top 5 of the 2000s for me. And I'll say it. Bruce Willis's best performance. Great movie.
Man, 2 episodes this season where we're past an hour because we just kind of keep talking about it. Absolutely phenomenal. I just want to do a quick little note that this movie was produced on a $75 million budget. Mm-hmm. Split was done with $9 million.
I believe it. Okay, yeah.
Glass was done for $20 million. So I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. I haven't seen Split or Glass. Uh-huh. And I know they weren't fondly received in some.
Split is really good. I actually had an incredible time, and I still think it's a really powerful movie. And like James McAvoy's performance, his physicality, Anya Taylor-Joy's approach to the character. Actually, side story, I met her once on a.
What? You're just now telling me this?
I was on a work trip in Miami and coming home, and she is in front of me with her mom through TSA. Okay, and I'm like, oh, this girl looks familiar, and I'm like, wait, is that the girl from Split? And the witch, right? This was probably like 6 months after Split had come out. So a year and a half after Witch, which is her big debut movie. And so anyway, so then we get through security. I'm like, I'm sorry, are you Anya Taylor or Anya Joy Taylor? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you probably get this a lot. I loved you in Split. My wife, it's my wife's favorite movie. Like, it really is. Oh. And you know, I tell her why, and we chatted about it, and her mom is there. She's from Argentina, and then
that's right.
And then we talk in Spanish, and And I'm like, and so we started like chatting in Spanish. I'm like, you were incredible. Like, I love what you did there. I love your approach to the character. And like, we chatted for like 5 minutes of like, she's like, oh really? I'm glad that you caught that from the movie. It's a heavy like
it's a
subject matter.
Because mental health, right? And
like abuse.
Yeah, and abuse.
Her character is abuse, and so like we talked about that, and she's like, look, thank you, like I appreciate it, and like her mom's way nice too. We had a great time just waiting for our flights. But
picture it wasn't real.
Split is really good.
Okay.
And just so you're aware, like it's literally the last maybe 30 seconds
that we see
that they tie Split to Unbreakable.
Right, which is, but you're 100% like no one really realized that when they did the trailer, when they released it, that it was connected to Unbreakable. Right. It wasn't until after the fact.
It was
right, which is phenomenal.
I don't even think they themselves knew that they were going to do this until. Because I believe this movie is Touchstone Pictures.
Okay.
And Split is Paramount. I think the rights, because Touchstone isn't around anymore.
Yeah.
So it's one of those like weird things where like the production company no longer exists.
Yeah.
And then Paramount came in, or whoever it is that did Split. I think it was just like a last minute decision.
And then,
because it at least to me, it really feels like they just kind of like,
let's put this in. Do you think M. Night directed that one too, right?
Yeah.
Did you like Glass?
Glass is the one that's rough.
Well, I'll have to watch Split. I'm excited and go from there. But thank you so much for putting this on the docket. I'm so glad I'm glad I got to experience this with you and talk about it with you.
Yeah.
Not that I wouldn't have enjoyed it before, but I think it just helped to amplify the whole experience.
It's a great movie.
But with that being said, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. We apologize that it was another long one, but if you did, we'd love it if you subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. And if you did enjoy this video or this podcast episode on Unbreakable, leave us a review. Let us know why, because it does help us get discovered.
But more importantly, what did you think of Unbreakable? Is this your first time? How many times have you watched it? What did we miss? You can always connect with us on socials at Reel Chums, or directly with us on Twitter. I'm Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY.
I'm at Rubius_TV. Or you can email us at reelchums.com. Join us next week as we continue our month-long discussion on superhero movies that are not based on comic books with Josh Trank's Chronicle. Another one that I have not seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Okay. I haven't seen this in a while, but I enjoyed it.
See you in the next one.
Later.